Okay, we're gonna do it the old-fashioned way. Um, So we have a guest tonight. This is Malcolm Bliss with Kearsarge Energy. He showed up by surprise, which is fine with me. We had talked about Kearsarge a few meetings ago, I think 2 meetings ago. They are offering a discount plan, and I'll let him do a quick presentation to us. Jack, you might have some questions, and others as well. So Malcolm, you want to take it away?
Sure will. And I thanks for making the time on ad hoc notice. I really appreciate that. It's so good to be here, meet with you guys. It's so good to see an energy committee of this number of people interested in making it happen. Like Jack and I met at a Clean Energy New Hampshire event just beginning of the holidays, and I learned a little bit about what we all got going on. And independently, Barrington had come up on our review of things going on in New Hampshire and towns to be in contact with.
How did you make that? How did you form that list?
Well, this particular list, we slice, it's a lot about, sometimes about populations and anticipated energy use as a result of populations. Other times it's on anticipated available area that may be suitable for solar development. In particular, Kearsarge does, as I'll say a little more about, does projects, especially in New Hampshire, in the 1 to 5 megawatt range. So for towns that have underutilized land, and especially landfills, but don't have to be landfills, or other suitable space.
You work with private landowners?
Yeah, private landowners. We're reaching out to private landowners. We reach out to towns who own land as well, but private landowners. And if you know any private landowners who say, hey, I've been thinking about it, and how come nobody ever called me? That is a failure on our part if we didn't call you yet and have one suitable. But there's always more to be done in that regard.
Would you be able to notify us if you are in touch with any landowners within Barrington, because we might be in a position to try and support them?
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And what I'll do is that my colleague Tom specializes in that kind of work, and I'll let him know that, and he would welcome the support. You all know that probably everybody here feels, why not get lower cost clean energy? That's kind of an easy question. But not everybody feels that way, and within a town, or sometimes more people would speak up saying, seems like a good idea to me, and it really helps.
Now, the 1 to 5 megawatt, these are municipal needs.
Yes, the 1 to 5 megawatts, which we're putting them all through the state's group net metering program. And that means they have to be public entities, what I call public entities. And the state calls political subdivisions, but public town, cities, state agencies, right, schools, that kind of stuff have to use the credits produced by these projects. We have a lot of them.
Yeah, I noticed.
So anyway, that's what gives us, that makes it more fun in some ways. We go, this is like a bottom and all you can eat kind of group net metering opportunity for anybody who's interested in group net metering. And we've bet on this. We've said, build it, figure out later, and keep our fingers crossed that there will be customers for the generated credits. And so, that's the main reason for the recent reach out here. But, we of course do solar development. If somebody says I got land, or the town's interested in exploring solar development in the 1 to 5 megawatt range, we absolutely want to do that. And that's part of our conversation. In the event, there's also opportunity or interest in group net metering. We have now counting 30 projects in the 1 to 5 megawatt range in New Hampshire. That will generate 150 to 200 million kilowatt hours a year. I think Barrington's of the size where my guess is, this is testing my predictor. You were just looking at the electric bills. And so we anticipate electric usage as a function of population. And my guess is that Barrington uses somewhere 1 million to 1.25 million kilowatt hours a year. But that could be
I
wrong.
mean, you mean the municipality?
Yeah, municipal meters.
You would be including the school in that.
Yeah.
We are pretty ignorant of what, the school is probably the primary utilizer and we are ignorant of what they're doing.
That happens too.
Yeah.
So in any case, that's like I said, we have a lot of group net metering credits, and to the extent you can develop solar on premises, we would say absolutely understand everybody wants to do that, but to the extent you can't cover all your needs with on premises solar, might as well take advantage of these credits. It's for those who like to think of it that way, it's a money saving program. Can't lose. Maybe everybody's here group net metering program already. Okay, can't lose. We'll save money.
And one thing you need to keep in mind,
Yeah.
I mentioned this in my email to
Yeah.
you, but although it is not necessarily a legal requirement, for anything that involves a multi-year contract, we would have to do a warrant article before the town.
Completely understandable, and we do warrant articles. We support towns in doing that sometimes. Most often, actually, town will say, "Hey, what do you think the warrant article should say?" And of course, the town's attorney goes over it and all that. But if you were to say, give us an idea what Kearsarge might suggest as a warrant article, get that going for you.
Excuse me. Leah just sent a message. She's trying to log in. Did you try to get a hold of her?
I sent her a mess.
No, she replied back to you.
No, she didn't.
Email?
Email.
That message.
That message. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, well, it's what's a funny thing. I have so many messaging systems.
She sent me a text.
Keep it talking. But I should, so just a little bit of intro on Kearsarge. Now you know the reason why I did the outreach and why I'm here. And but just in case you don't know Kearsarge, just a little bit, been around since 2009. Tuned the business to working with public entities like municipalities or state agencies and things like that. We have built up organically enough capital where we can fund projects, so we don't need to go to outside sources before deciding whether to do a project or not. So, which can be a real pitfall in a development process. Somebody says, "Hey, that's a great idea, and it's wonderful. And let's see if we can go get financing." It's like buying your house. You're like, "Sorry, I couldn't get a mortgage." That's not going to happen because we're the developer and have the capital. Additionally, we build, own, and operate so that none of our partners have to worry about a project getting sold and then saying, "Well, what's the new owner think?" So they don't have to worry about what's the new owner think. They also don't worry about, hey, is that developer who normally sells, if there's somebody working with a developer normally sells, which can be a fine model, but it doesn't align interests really well because economically it can make sense for somebody who's going to sell the project to cut corners. Put in, if you're building a home and you care that much about your business, you'd say, "Let me put in the cheap stuff and I'll sell the house and it'll be the next owner's problem." That can't happen with Kearsarge because we're there for the long term too. So anyway, own capital, build, own, and operate, long-term partners. Been doing this since 2009. Now have 300 megawatts in our operating portfolio, including just the last week of last year, 2 new projects, including a 27 megawatt project in Maine and a 3 megawatt project in Connecticut, which brought us over 300 megawatts. All our projects are all in New England and New York State, so we're northeastern. We are beginning to explore putting down roots in Maryland, Delaware, and maybe Michigan, Illinois. But so this is where we're from, so where we're at. So
I don't know how unique the New Hampshire municipal group net metering concept is. In other states, are you allowed to have private enrollees?
In other states, yes, with Massachusetts having many fragmented programs, and some programs, yes, not this one, but they depend on how you registered and when you registered, when you're built, regime was in place at the time, maybe in Massachusetts. But otherwise, generally, yes, private in other states. And the most common requirement in other states is must have some portion, a percentage, be residential and or must have some percentage be low and moderate income subscribers. So those are like every state. Yeah, every state except New Hampshire. New Hampshire's program is a little bit younger in some regards, and so at some point in time, it would probably happen that same might be here. It's like a portion of these projects must be residential, and or a portion of these projects must be low and moderate income subscribers. We don't have that here now, but every state has its own fun things they're doing, and Massachusetts does have a kind of an allowance for public entities, much like New Hampshire has this, must be public entities for 1 to 5 megawatt projects. Massachusetts has, for a time, had an allowance that says, public entities can feed longer at the all-you-can-eat, so they can get a bigger project or they can get more than non-public entities. So there's been a break in Massachusetts, a good break for public entities in Massachusetts, but it's not. Here in New Hampshire, we have, if you're 1 to 5 megawatt project, the only participants can be public entities, political subdivisions.
I just want to make sure I understand the model.
Yeah.
So you build the PV field. The electricity is used by the municipality, and you're selling it to them at a discounted rate because you're using the credits to offset some of that. Is that right? Or did I understand that correctly?
Great question. Thank you. And I want to restate it a little bit. The credits I'm speaking of are called net metering credits, or in this case, group net metering credits, and are not renewable energy credits.
Oh, the group net metering credits. Sorry.
They're not RECs. So that's important. Both are credits, but one's group net metering credit, net metering credit. Shorten it up if you want. The other is renewable energy credits. In the case of this is the way net metering or community solar, group net metering work in all states. Here comes a couple of steps. The solar field, as you said, solar field generates electricity, flows in the grid, and benefits at that point utility. Right then and there, it's free electricity utility. Yay if you're a utility. Except, thank goodness, state regulators say no free electricity utility. You got to pay for that somehow. And in every state, the regulators say the way utility is going to pay for that is by putting credits or issuing gift cards, if you want to call it, issuing gift cards to subscribers.
Oh, okay.
So that's what I hope to do is get folks to subscribe, or public entities in this case, maybe the town of Barrington, to subscribe to a project and receive these credits, which act like e-gift cards. So the utility issues these e-gift cards, and that's how they pay for electricity. And it benefits the participants, the group members here in New Hampshire, because you keep getting these e-gift cards.
Got it.
And you go, well, that's good. It's, we got an e-gift card every month and we use that to pay for our electricity. And
So is this complicated by if you're using a third-party provider, SEPs or community power?
That's a great question. And oftentimes, that's a question frequently asked. I'm really glad to say that I can give this answer. No interaction, no restrictions one way or the other. You can have any supplier you want, including community power. Does not interfere or prohibit or disrupt your ability to participate in group net metering. So those are, and I say this, I don't get out too much. So I say my electric bill is more fun than I thought. I can choose any supplier, including group net meter, including community power style supply. And then there's this separate part of the electric bill, like I call it checkout time, when I can apply the e-gift card. And it doesn't matter what supplier I had in the basket. When I come to checkout, I apply these e-gift cards, these credits. It doesn't matter who's a supplier higher up in the bill. But it's a great question. Frequently asked, and unfortunately, in the absence of other information, can be a point of confusion. People go like, oh, they just, anyway. But anyway, fortunately, there's, the electric bill's more fun than I thought. Separate parts electric bill, supply goes in the basket, checkout time, apply the gift card from the group net metering program. Doesn't matter what's in your basket. That's a great question.
Now that, and I had sort of gleaned that from the literature you sent me.
Yeah.
Somehow I was pretty sure that was the case, and still not quite sure how the cost accounting works, and probably never will be, but that's okay.
It's like, well, thank goodness. I'm going to say there is a huge advantage to being New Hampshire in the program here. This is in this regard, New Hampshire is the best program that I've seen. This includes places like Oregon, Illinois, Maryland, Delaware, even any state that has like a kind of a shared solar program. In most of the states, this has additional complexity built in. Rather than just getting an e-gift card, which can actually, in this case, in New Hampshire, is like a check. You get your payment like a check. You don't have to spend on electricity if you don't want to. Take this check.
Oh, it's not single bill. It's not included in the utility bill.
It's a check that arrives separately from the utility bill. A check or an ACH payment into your general fund.
Mhm.
So you can go, oh, I use this for bread and salt in the winter, or I'll use it for umbrella, sunshade in the summer, or I'll fund a community program with it, or whatever. Yeah, you can do whatever you would do with your funds. It's a check that arrives, or an ACH that arrives monthly, corresponding to the amount of solar generation. So bigger checks in the summer, smaller checks in the winter. And I have this. I'll pass this around. I don't know in one copy here. I'm going to open up one page in particular, and then we'll show you this, which makes it a little bit better here. But anyway, so in the case of New Hampshire, these credits arrive in the form of just money.
Hang on, something you said there. So it's not a straight percentage of, some part of your utility bill.
No.
When we're not contracting for a fixed amount of power either.
True.
How is it determined what the payback is?
The size of the check, the payment that comes every month, is a percentage of the production of a solar project. Okay. So let's say you get
and we subscribe to a given percentage.
Yes.
Okay.
And the percentage is determined by the amount of your electric usage. That's why how much electricity used of interest. It's planned. One thing that the state requires is the utility can't be tricked into paying for more electricity than the group member and subscriber uses. So Kearsarge must certify every year that we didn't deliver more credits, we didn't deliver more checks, more payments than allowed in the program according to your usage. But within that, the amount of the checks and ACH is a function of how much electricity was produced by the solar project. Let's say it's the Manchester Dunbarton landfill project. So let's say you can take 2% of that, and 2%, which we will review and agree. And it's Kearsarge's job to make sure that you don't go over. There's no liability on your part. But if it goes over, we're in trouble. So we say, okay, looks like based on your electricity usage, you'll take 2%. You agree, we agree, we agree. 2%, and that means in the summertime, as the Manchester Dunbarton landfill project generates money, flows into the Eversource grid, measured by their meters, and Eversource says, we got to pay for this. And in most other states, there would be complicated stuff. But in this state, as shown by the picture that we have here, Eversource says, okay, here's the money, please distribute it. And there is a audit trail that is shown in this document, so everybody knows what they're getting. But the first page just shows how the money flows. Utility pays the host owner, and host owner must distribute to the group members. And the next page in that shows the audit trail. Utility gives a statement of how much electricity is produced. You say we're supposed to get 2% of the payout. The math is very easy. Number times value times 2%. That's what you get every month. But you don't pay anything. You don't invest anything. It's no use of your property. It's no interference with supply or community solar.
And
here comes your money.
what we're supplying is the
Data.
data.
We're supplying data.
And the place to put them, or no?
No.
No,
So here's another way to look at this
okay,
on a simpler scale. I have one small project that does this, so I sort of understand what's going on.
Nice, yes. good.
So, I make, let's say, 5,000 kilowatts a month, and Eversource pays me for those kilowatt hours that I generate. In response to that, I have to get data from the customers that I supply that says we use those kilowatt hours.
okay,
Beyond that, nothing changes hands. No kilowatt hours go from one place to another. He's putting them on the grid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eversource is paying him for those kilowatt hours, but then he has to justify that he actually distributed those kilowatt hours
okay.
financially.
Financially, no electrons, yeah.
So essentially, like, you would look at our town and say, you need 5,000 kilowatt hours, and that's how you size it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I got it.
And I'm gonna buy your data that proves that you use those
Proves
five.
that that's true,
Right,
okay.
So that's how.
Got it.
It's a lightweight. We'll take the electric bills that just came here. If you want to share those occasionally, but at the end of the year, we have to report to the utility who checks. if
And
we
in New
go-
Hampshire, it can only be municipal
Public entities.
public entities, okay. It can't be Joe Blow's
To
house.
get from 1 megawatt, in order for them to make a 1 to 5 megawatt project, all that has to go to municipalities. You could build a 900 kilowatt project and give it to anybody.
Ah, okay,
It's
thank you.
less than a megawatt.
And I know we've reviewed this in the past, it just,
And
I
it's
needed to.
deep and twisted.
Always, yeah. Always good to do. And so, and whether or not this sets on any of your property, the answer is, we got 29, or I can't remember, 30 is 29 to 30 projects, either developed or in development, that would supply the credits. So there's no need to provide any property or do any construction or manage any project on your behalf.
Oh, so it's not even necessarily located in,
Just has to be
Okay.
in Eversource territory.
It's
Never
in Newton.
right, right,
In
right.
Newton.
I do recall that, okay.
Right. We have like,
Thank you for
So,
the reminders.
we have
I
oodles
assume
of
that
Eversource, yeah.
you have to set the percentage in a safe range so that we never utilize less than that. I mean, it's, if there was some weird thing that happened where all of Barrington's municipal facilities shut down and didn't use any power.
Yeah.
What would happen?
That, at the end of the year, we would get a penalty, and I don't know what the penalty is. If for whatever reason, we delivered more credits, more money, more payment to you than was warranted by your electricity usage, we would be penalized. And the penalty is,
Paying Eversource back.
yeah, it is paying with penalty. And anyway, it's sufficiently discouraging that we want to make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah, okay.
And I would say, it's unfortunate they put that in place, because absent that, we would be delivering a lot more money to a lot more people.
Right.
We've delivered way more than your electricity usage. We're gonna be like, hey, it's like, it'd be a great party, but they thought of that. So, so anyway, we're very careful on that.
Can we hang on to the,
Oh, of
you
course.
send me an electronic copy?
I certainly will. Yeah, by all means. So I'll leave this right here, and you may find, this is the one page that folks may have seen. That is from the Public Utilities Commission of the state. It just shows how the money flows. As I mentioned, New Hampshire has the easiest flow of any. There's a little bit extra, couple accounting complexity steps in every other state. And then also in here is, here's the statements I was talking about. So in case anybody wants to know, they say like, oh, how are we gonna make sure we're getting the right amount? This shows the statement that comes from the utility and the statement that you get. To compare these two numbers. And if the numbers match correctly, then, this is all working right. And so it's a very easy, control process for everybody.
Is there a typical lifespan on the projects in terms of the length of time the arrangement is in place?
The projects, should live at least 20 years, should produce at least 20 years, and hopefully longer. But our planning horizon and the groups we form are for 20 years. So the checks we can do to flow for 20 years at a minimum.
And the agreement is for how?
The agreement is 20 years. Also.
Just out of curiosity, what happens at the end of the 20 years? If it's still working, you can re-sign, or?
Yes,
Okay.
you go under then whatever then current rules are and sign up
I see.
again, or say, well, it's been nice, but there's something new now. We got this fusion thing in our bathroom.
Okay.
Did you say what the discount rate was?
10%.
10% off the current Eversource default rate.
True, exactly, which I think is, it's coming out to 8 point something cents starting February. So anyway, whatever the then current rate is. You know,
Yeah,
So if we have community power, we're paying 6 cents.
Hmm.
And the default rate is 10.
Yeah.
We're getting 9 cents.
You're, the payout that you receive under group net metering is a function of the rate that applies to the host, to the solar facility, not the rate that applies to your consumption, your usage. So you can, this is the great thing, so
that's
like
kind
we
of
said.
double dipping, isn't it?
Double dip
Yeah.
is great.
I mean, good for us, way.
Well, you go get the best supply you can, and if you beat out whatever the utility default rate is, fantastic. But your credit value is still determined by the utility default rate.
Interesting.
Okay.
That I was not.
Yeah, it's because it's the utility paying for the electricity. This is the way I
Right.
can logic this up a little bit. Utility's paying for electricity. Utility gets, the state says you're going to pay the rate that you're charging people. You're not going to pay the rate that they negotiated with somebody else. You know?
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, that's what I got.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for allowing me to.
Oh,
If I can do anything else for you, let me know. Otherwise, I'll step out.
Okay.
If there's something else, anything comes up, Paul knows how to get a hold of me. I have a business card for anybody like, you say, hey, I know a landowner, I'll make sure that Paul knows for landowners. I'll let you all know if we have land in the area.
Yeah.
Anybody have interest, you can get it from Paul at any time, my contact information.
And just one question, you said that the solar farm doesn't need to be in our community or the neighborhood, but I assume you're always looking for new sites, and so you could build one here and somebody other buying it, right?
Absolutely.
So are you actively, sounds like you're interested in opportunities.
Yep, we would be interested in private land or land owned by the town. And anybody who has a suitable site, which is not an easy thing to get. That's like hitting the lottery a little bit. Like, hey, I have this land and I'd like to see if it's good for solar. Step one, but then a lot more steps and long odds to say, oh, this land is good for solar.
Do you typically enter a lease agreement with the landowner or do you try to purchase?
We typically enter lease, but we could purchase if somebody says, no, I really want to sell this land. It's a great solar site. You know, well, purchase is the way to do it then.
And the lease is also 20 years then?
Lease is typically 20 years with options for extensions, option by mutual agreement. So a landowner or municipality can look forward to lease payments. And in the case of municipality, a pilot payment. Plus the municipality can participate in the savings of the generation.
Do you have any examples of what the lease payments are?
That will vary greatly depending on what the cost to develop is going to be. And here's the cost items are very much dependent on the complexity of the interconnection to the grid. How far, how much upgrade, how much money is the utilities.
Suck out of you.
Yeah, thank you very much. So the ideal site is a site where there's 3-phase service right at the site, and the nearest substation has just oodles of capacity, and that's like the
That's
land
the,
boss.
I would assume that's the unicorn situation.
Yeah, it's like the highland. More often, it's like maybe 3-phase somewhere around here, but the substation capacity has been gobbled up some time ago. That's not always the case, but so we're always on the lookout for the needle in the haystack, which is we still find stuff like that. It's just because people didn't get around to developing, and it's an area where nobody else needed the grid resources. So there you go. So we're always on the lookout for that. If somebody says, what we'll do in short order, if somebody says, here's a site, site of 4 or more acres, typically we're looking for, or rooftops of 50,000 square feet or greater. We'll short order go, here's our checklist of things that are most usually disqualify. And then if it passes those, then we go into the next stage evaluation. But we can very quickly evaluate somebody's site and say, hey, if you got something that's worth looking at further, or glad we talked, and now you know, doesn't look like a good step.
Great.
All right. Thank you all. Really
Thanks,
appreciate
Malcolm.
it.
Appreciate it. Okay, continuing on. Did anyone look at the agenda? Thank you. Makes me feel much better. There were, so I didn't look at the meeting minutes from last December, but when Lee sent these today, I did look at the minutes and realized there was some things in there that I had forgotten about and did not take care of in the intervening week. I was gonna go, and there was some things that I had some questions. Thanks, Malcolm. See if I- Oh. She said, this is in regards to the dashboard for the solar array on the website. She said, once we get an average monthly savings, we could add that to the dashboard. Did we say that? Yeah, I don't want to do
No,
that.
we didn't say that.
Okay, I will get that out of there, because I didn't think that was correct. I mean, I don't want to screw around with that in any case, and that's not something I want
I
to
just
do.
want to know how many Segway rides we get.
And we don't want to do it monthly anyway.
But was there something
Yeah,
about posting what community power is saving the town of Barrington?
No, the solars.
This is for the
Right, so
specifically, right, that,
we try to get that word
not
out
on a
too.
monthly basis. That's gonna be, so. Did people look at the annual report by any chance? The link did work. So I can't show you that. I did write up a monthly report. Rob, feel free to stay after class and I can show it to you.
But I didn't know if she was talking about posting
Skipping school.
the savings or one thing.
Maybe that was confused. That's possible. But no, she specifically is talking about the dashboard for the solar.
Yeah.
So I think it was a misunderstanding. We'll get it cleaned up.
So that's, we're talking about this, the Energy Committee Report 2024.docs, right? Is that what you're referring to, Paul?
Energy.
Town hall solar.
What are you looking at? Are
I-
you looking at my agenda?
Well, yes, but then I thought you were referring us to your annual report.
Yeah, that's Energy Committee Annual Report.
Okay, so I heard monthly at some point. I just making sure I knew what you were talking about.
Yeah, we are not planning on doing anything monthly.
Okay.
We, even the Community Power Coalition stuff, at most, that would probably be twice a year.
Yeah, no, I don't think people want to hear from us monthly. I just want to make sure I knew what it.
I hope not.
what we were
because
referring to.
I don't really want to deal with that. So that I'll have the minutes modified. I'm not going to accept them as they are, and I'll go over some of that with Leah. We need to pick another gift card recipient. I've been trying since the day after our last meeting to get in touch with Lyle DeLauder, and I sent him a few emails, and the last one I said, if you don't get in touch with me by our next meeting, we will be selecting a new recipient. So,
42.
42, was he 42? or
No, he was in the
that's-
70s. 42
Okay.
is my proposal.
42 is the new number? Hopefully it's a legitimate one. If not, we will take it on ourselves to pick an alternative, because I don't want this to take too much time. But I will say that you picked the magic number of 42 for this round, which is the answer to the meaning of life, as I recall.
And everything, yes.
Okay, very good. I did write up the annual report, and submitted it to Tiffany. It will be in there with the picture of us in front of the solar array. I also included the template from CPC and H's in addition to that. Have a look. If you have any comments and hate it, it's
That-
probably too late to do anything.
That template did have my last name wrong, but.
Oh, did it? Oh, I'm sorry.
It was confused. The
Did
lots out
it
there.
say
that-
Frederico or something?
I don't even, it was really butchered. There was an F and an R and an F and an E, and then it went downhill from there. I think there might have been a K in there as well.
Okay.
Anyway,
I guess you're anonymous, basically.
I apologize, I didn't read it that carefully.
and I was thinking that portion of it maybe didn't even need to be included because you had summarized
Yeah.
well in the first part, I thought, so.
It didn't need to be in there, but I decided I would just take most. I did modify the payment section so that it was extended to what our projection is through the end of the current rate period, so the end of this month.
Great.
But I didn't look at, I breezed through the rest. I'm sorry. But have a look. It's possible there can still be changes. The deadline for getting that in was yesterday, so I just don't. And I actually beat the deadline by more than a day, so I was quite pleased with this. I need to take up a few things about the postings to the website with Leah. We need to get the new rates up there. The way that the coalition is publicizing them, I'm not happy with. It used to be that they always had the listing, their rate selection, and below that was the utility rates. Now that, they're in a little bit of a bind and they are higher than 3 of the utilities and slightly lower than Eversource, they've dropped the utility rates. I don't like that. I think we should add that and keep it in the old
At
style.
least in our case, it's still positive. We don't care about units. That's right.
Right, but even if it wasn't, if they had to pick a rate that was actually higher than all the utilities, I think it's incumbent on us to publish that. It's not only one, and so.
Being
So-
transparent.
Yeah, so I'll ask Leah in the past, we've just copied, I believe as a picture, their little table. We'll just have to make our own table and duplicate the information. It's not a big deal. I did attend, they had this legislative preview session and advocacy boot camp. I don't think I want to go. I wasn't expecting Malcolm to be here, so I didn't realize it. We could go quite late if we go into a lot of detail. Basically, what they're pushing is what they're calling the Energy Forward Act. The Energy Forward Act, and there are some good links in the agenda, which has a really good 1 or 2 page summary of this. I'd recommend you take a look at it. But basically what it is it's a group of legislative.
I keep clicking on the link and it keeps saying
I keep
no.
getting an error.
It's okay. I'll figure it out later.
It could be a Community Power Coalition link, so you should get. Tell me if you can. I'll copy it for you.
Okay, thank you.
But basically, it is a group of proposed legislative actions. They don't have bill numbers yet. They come out first as LSRs, and I don't remember.
They should have it now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, they're,
As of yesterday, they didn't.
I don't know exactly.
Yeah, I
Pretty
guess.
soon.
Yes, yeah, it will be soon because all this stuff happens quite early on. And basically what they're going for is, they want accountability, they want reimbursement from ISO and New England. They want the proper adjustments so that we can do group net metering. So that we can do rooftop solar, regular net metering. They are looking for provisions for time of use, which would require meter replacements, and I don't know how that's going to be addressed. They're going for a shopping bag of all of the things that we've talked about. And clearly they're not going to get it, but they might get some. The other thing is that they're trying to get some stronger wording in so that the utilities have to abide by the regulations that already exist. which they're not. So we'll
So
see.
would that imply like they, for example, can't do that 16% renewable when it releases 23.9?
No, that is actually allowed.
It's a PVC order.
Yeah.
I have to look it up, so.
No, this is, so this is the sort of, it's basically, so the situation where Eversource is not providing the data that they legally must provide in order for a group like CPCNH or the other SEFs, third-party providers, to be able to support net metering.
Got it.
On their own. The adjustments that need to be done in order to account for that. All of that is on the books now. Eversource has raised some, they complained about it because they said there needs to be effectively a distribution fee. There needs to be a loss ratio that's figured out for power that's being pushed onto the grid by distributed energy resources. And you've heard of that.
A loss ratio.
So what does,
It's to account for line loss from energy that
okay.
distributed energy resources are pushing onto the grid. And of course, their goal seems to be to stretch the process of figuring out what that number would be for as long as possible.
Okay.
And
So the power is being used locally,
so the losses are far less, yes. They're negligible.
just about nothing.
But that's not what they're gonna come up with.
No. But I can tell you that as far as the management of net metering, it's just as bad as it's ever been. I mean, I haven't seen a bill in 5 months. On the project that I have, it's,
Really?
yeah, 5 months. And I get checks out of the blue and random occasions that I can't make any sense out of at all. That's just, the whole thing is a total disaster.
Well, we know that you're independently wealthy and this doesn't matter to you.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't, they still don't have a handle on the basics here. Is really the point. They just don't have a grip on it.
so
These new projects?
Hmm?
New projects?
No, that one I was explaining to you guys that meter I've had
It's an
for,
existing.
I've had for 7 years.
and you don't have predictable revenue because they can't provide data, basically.
Well, I know exactly what they owe me. It just doesn't show up that way.
Okay.
I won't see a check for 4 months, and then I'll see a check that makes no sense about anything, and then I'll get
Yeah.
bills. I have gotten, in the last year, I have gotten 3 bills for the same billing interval, a
Perfect.
month apart.
Okay, yeah.
It's like, guys, I mean, they're really,
They're all different.
yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. They have no idea what's going on. It's clueless. So it's not surprising to me that they can't supply the data, because the data is totally corrupt. Just,
They couldn't, they gave them meter numbers for new units here and new stuff. And so that meter doesn't exist. I said, here's a picture of it.
that happened too.
You keep billing it, so.
Well, they don't bill it.
Oh, they don't.
No, they weren't billing it.
it.
But here's a picture of it with a meter number on it. You tell me why it doesn't exist here.
It was awful.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
So it sounds like the Energy Forward Act is important.
So do you know, say who the sponsor is? Sponsor. Wanted to look it up.
Of the Energy Forward, it's a collection of bills, so it's, and it is the coalition, but there are other people involved as well.
Well, but there must be.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you who it is for each one. I don't think they actually said that, and can you look up LSRs?
Oh, yeah.
You can,
Yeah.
so that would tell you
You
that.
have the number.
I do, you want a list?
I mean, you either look for the sponsor or you look for the bill.
So
number.
if you go to the links that I gave you, there's a link on, it's sort of a summary of what the Energy Forward Act, that doesn't have the LSRs in it. But if you go down to the bottom of the agenda, under upcoming meetings and events, pictures.
Our Senator David Waters, is it David Waters?
Yeah.
He's on the energy committee.
Yeah.
He sponsors a lot of
Yeah.
those, but most of these are House bills, or will come out as House bills.
Yeah.
I thought that I had a link to the presentation that, to this presentation, actually, a PDF, in the agenda.
Under legislative information or?
It doesn't look like that's it. I might have. So. Oh, where it says legislative preview and advocacy boot camp, hopefully that's it. Yes. So that is the presentation that they made that, where this was presented. So that at least should have the LSRs listed. Yes, it does. It has all of them in there, so you can use that as a reference. And once again, tell me if that link doesn't work and I'll download the document. It's just on the Community Power Coalition website, so it should.
Well, I presume they're gonna put something out about it, or Energy NH.
Well, they're doing regular updates on this. So in the upcoming events, there is tomorrow. They do this on Fridays typically. There's another legislative policy check-in from 2 to 2:45. I have the Teams link for you to join that meeting if you want. And then there's background information below. So they'll be doing that on a regular basis. And I mean, this is the coalition. It's not clean.
Yeah, I understand. I'm just saying if it's a major piece of legislation,
They're working.
CNH is probably
Yeah.
gonna be.
Yeah.
promoting it.
In fact, CNH, there were some people, you probably know who these people are. Do you know Kristen Koch, Cornerstone Government Affairs?
No, but I don't keep up with all,
Okay.
a lot of new faces.
Actually, CNH was not in. So they were doing that. They did their own previously. I couldn't attend. So, but yes, they're doing their own legislative updates as well. And if I get a notification, which I should, I will let you know at this meeting. There is another, as long as we're talking about the notification that you sent me about
The January 22 session?
yeah, I thought I had this. Oh, I do have.
You
it.
do. It's at the bottom, I think, right?
Okay, we'll get to that. That is. Before we do that, let's continue on the agenda. Cindy, why don't you fill us in on the grant?
The library, the Barrington Library Foundation was awarded a $25,000 grant. Just found out about that last week. And the tentative plan is to put that all towards the solar install. Trustee.
Congratulations on that. That's great.
Well, that was Rogers too.
What, do you know what kind of grant it was?
Yes, it was the Samuel P. Hunt grant. We applied. Yeah, it's a private foundation. We applied for many and we got rejected. And this one we didn't get. And First Seacoast Bank, I think I already told you guys, that has awarded us a 3-year grant, $5,000 per year, and we collected the first $5,000. And Giving Tuesday, my brainchild, we raised $32,000, and we also have some pledges that are yet to be fulfilled, but they are in good standing and written and recorded of, I think, $35,000.
Wow.
So I feel very confident it's going to happen.
What kind of balance does that leave you with for the needs for the solar system? The whole shebang.
So it depends on how things are accounted for and, like, I'm not trying to not give you a straight answer. It's just,
No,
it's,
no,
it's
yeah.
complicated because it sort of depends on if we pay for everything outright and hope to get the credits back and who those go to and where, and there's some discussion about that.
So,
Or-
yeah, let's just make that obvious. The meter holder is the one who gets the credits. So the town owns the meter on the library.
One gets the credit.
Well, so the state rebate doesn't go to the
Oh,
library
I see.
foundation, it goes to the town. The 30% direct pay,
So the question is basically, do we need to come up, I should be very clear, does the Barrington Library Foundation need to come up with $10,000 that then goes back to the town, or can they loan it to it? I just don't want to get too
Yeah,
involved in
no,
that because
yeah.
it's sort of like it's being discussed and worked out. But depending on how that goes, assuming if everything goes great, we need like, I don't know, $6,000 or something. And I have no concerns that we'll get that.
That's great. That's good to hear.
and that's for the whole thing, that's the ground mount.
Right.
And the other sort of sticky wicket is if the contingency fund doesn't actually cover everything, then the trustees may be asking to use some of those funds for other stuff. So, but we'll see. So far, it's on time and on budget.
Great.
Did Peter call you at all about? No. He said he was going. He's busy.
I don't think it's an issue.
About what?
He was concerned, they wanted to get the stuff up in the attic.
You get the stuff.
Well, inverters and stuff, inverters aren't that big.
Oh,
If you can
okay.
fit a body up in the attic,
Oh,
you can get the inverters in the attic. So I don't want to buy the inverters now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think it's a big deal.
Okay.
There's nothing large that has to go up there.
Okay.
Any news on the rec center, Jim?
We haven't got the actual figures yet, it's still being engineered, so we don't know hard figures yet. Our preliminary budget was over budget. So, but they weren't hard figures that they gave us in the preliminary budget, so.
Okay.
Thought we were gonna have a meeting this week, but it didn't happen, probably next week.
Okay. Okay. Moving along. I had a bunch of things that I took up with Connor that we had discussed at the last meeting. I forgot some as well, as I mentioned, but I'll get to those in the future. So we had talked about sharing, since the survey turned out that the preferred mechanism for engagement was basically email and social media, a little bit less than that. I talked to Connor about mailing lists in the town. He said the only significant, well, there are 3 significant lists: the rec center, the library, and the schools. And to make a long story short, he doesn't think that any of them would be willing to share their lists with us. And probably for good reason, because those are targeted lists. People are expecting to get updates from those entities and not from us, which is understandable. The town.
I did talk to the library
Oh, you did?
people about their list, and they said what they would do is they would put, if you would like to join the energy group mailing list, then sign up here.
Oh, that would be good.
And I feel like that mechanism might not offend.
Yeah.
I mean, it's worth asking the rec and the school people about that too,
Okay, that's a good
because it's
idea.
completely opt-in.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Connor didn't be willing to go that far. So now I did ask him about what the town is doing in regards to this. And he said they've had various discussions. Is anyone familiar with customer relation management software tools?
No.
So
Constant contact.
yeah, that's one. It's a family of software tools that's used for doing exactly the kind of thing that we're talking about. And, there are lots of companies that have made great claims about these tools for municipal purposes, and none of them are cheap. The town has looked at them, and so far their decision has been no, they're not worth it. Top towns that have used them, kind of claims that those towns have not been impressed. So basically, we're not going to. So, anything we can do with the lists that exist, as you're saying, Cindy, would be good. We don't have any great solution beyond what we've already done.
So, if you want that message to go out in the next mailing, I guess we would probably want to have a plan in place of, maybe not, but what we're gonna do with it. Like, are we gonna send out a quarterly newsletter? Or, I mean, just in case there's questions.
We would use it to do things like, the one thing that I know we do is we would send out notification of new rates. Other than that, if we have things that we wanted to publicize, I don't think we would probably be even doing anything monthly. I don't want to bug people,
Yeah,
but I want to inform people.
quarterly.
Something
Say
like
quarter.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
It sounds like it's at least twice a year, the rates.
yes.
Yeah.
So,
And we could do 2 extras in addition. And, it might include, we had also discussed, possibly doing education. We were thinking, or I was thinking about, could we do something with the YouTube channel? Connor said basically that is not under our control. It's something that is offered by YouTube for the purposes of town meetings and publicizing those. So he thought it would be much more appropriate if we split off a section, probably put a new page on the Energy Committee website, and have links to educational tools or trainings or.
Yep.
So what I wanted to do was I wanted people to take on a homework assignment. See if you can find any educational tools that you think would be appropriate. Does Ted have something that he was doing on this?
We've actually signed a contract with a couple people who are doing education outreach stuff that I don't have much information on right now, but
Okay. Anything would be interesting. I'm not sure what Rewiring America offers. I'm not sure. I mean, there is the government program there's both a federal and a state program for the electric school buses. We know that's an educational opportunity that we want to take advantage of because we seem not to be aware of the advantages of that program. So I will try and come up with some stuff on my own, but if everyone could try and take a look and make suggestions, I'd like to have things in place before we put a new page on the website so that we have things to go there.
And I suppose we could look at the survey results to see which topics were highest interest in. Not that we would only.
We
use
should
those,
do that, but right, well, as I said at the last meeting, we want to use that as a guideline, but I think, and remember that the electric school bus program,
Was
was
low
not
interest.
popular at all. And I think that that's something that we need to take on as the group has agreed, as an education project to make people realize that this actually is something that's worth doing.
I totally agree. I meant to just state that if there was a high interest, we had a specific question about what would you like to learn about? And if there's a high interest in A and B, we should probably include those.
And there definitely are some of those,
Yeah, I don't recall it there off the top of my head, but.
I think actually solar stuff and weatherization.
Has anyone seen any good news articles, stories, kind of like New Hampshire Chronicle type story about electric school buses in a town? It's somewhere in New England or something like
That's
that.
a good idea too.
That has been successful, saved the town money, clean air, some sort of good community story that's been done to kind of promote it or educate about it.
and I looked at some of the federal stuff, DOE, and I think they had some case studies or, I mean, they weren't from right around here.
There was
This
some
doesn't
in
have to be
Vermont and
local, but-
Massachusetts.
Yeah.
That always strikes a chord, I think.
Did that go on the internet?
You can put it
On the
on
news page or?
you can put it on our website, a link to learn more about
Yeah.
electric bus options.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna take that.
The Barrington Truck Show is coming back to the town center
Oh, cool.
in August 16th, I believe it is.
You think we could get an electric bus?
Well,
down
that
there?
to me sounds like an absolute ideal opportunity
That
to
is such a
try
cool
to get
idea.
it out there.
That is a really cool idea.
I think it's August 16th. Well, you were at the meeting when they
Yeah,
approved it.
I don't know.
I don't remember the
Set a
date.
date yet.
I heard a date.
When you say August,
It's August.
That is a really cool idea
Yep.
that can be done.
And it may not need to be right on that site. You know, you might be able to do it nearby or something too. I don't know how much space they're using and all of that.
it just would be, it would be like it was at the,
Yeah, yeah.
the local energy conference.
Yeah.
It would just, the bus would have to pull in and people could get
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
It would then go for a ride, I think.
Magic.
Yeah.
Well, it seems to me to be a good idea, but somebody else might not think so.
Well, I
Good
mean,
exposure.
there's nothing like seeing, touching, experiencing something and to get a better handle of it.
Okay, I'll get in touch with their company again.
August 16th and 17th.
Yep, okay. It's 2 days. I thought it was 1 day. It's
Well,
2 days.
this said 16 and 17, but
Yeah,
I know people are sleeping over.
Yeah.
Just to set up.
yeah,
Oh, well,
So I don't.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
But that weekend.
Yeah.
So what Cindy and I were talking before, Clean Energy New Hampshire and SolSmart are putting on it's actually a whole training session that goes on for like 6 months. Does anyone recall, we looked at SolSmart earlier. SolSmart is a federal program. It is huge. And you can get community certification, but it is an incredibly involved process. It's extremely detailed. This is a little piece of it which would be aimed at updating our zoning ordinances for solar, which is something that we want to do in any case. So there is they're calling it a solar zoning permitting cohort info session on January 22nd. I will attend as much as I can. Unfortunately, I have a doctor's appointment that's overlapping. There's Zoom meetings. Cindy also has another commitment. If anyone is interested in attending that, please do.
You said the 22nd?
Yeah,
Of January?
So it's next week, I believe.
Wednesday.
Yeah, I think I can't remember, I'm working that day or whatever I'm doing, but I couldn't make the time.
and that's not the actual program. It's an information
information
session, and I have signed up for an addition to get regular updates on the program. They're basically putting it together now. It seems like it's very timely, given that we want to do this. There also, I mentioned this to Connor. I don't know if anyone here is aware, but apparently Jim Sakosha wants to draft an amendment to the solar amendment to restrict the town center from having tracking arrays. Apparently, that's what apparently people are very unhappy with the stuff that came.
But it's not the town center.
No,
It's Halo's property.
it's adjacent. So
It's
they're
adjacent.
saying they don't want.
The solar ordinance would affect private property. That doesn't matter that it's not town
So does the town currently have a solar
property. It
ordinance?
does, and it's out of date and we need to look at it. It's actually pretty extensive, but it's probably, probably needs to be updated and significantly revised. And that's what we need to look at. I was hoping to get a template, and I'm not sure that there is anything, but something probably will come out of this training session.
The Sakosha's ordinance include rooftops or just the?
It's just tracking. It's just tracks.
Yeah.
We in charge?
And it would,
I didn't think that.
it's a height.
Yeah.
It wouldn't ban them, I don't.
Well, yeah, Vernon, yes, it's 15,
17.
15 feet.
So,
Is it 17?
Well, I was told 14 but Yeah,
So we got 3 numbers.
It's written down somewhere.
I was told 14 feet, because I remember doing the trigonometry and see
Right.
how.
Well, clearly that array is a lot taller than that.
Yeah.
Well, so that was for a pedestal on a,
Wasn't
No,
a tractor, but it was still a pole mount, so.
yeah,
Same
yeah.
thing.
So I don't, well, is it though? It's treated by the same.
So how did they get away with building it if there's a?
We encouraged them to put it on a, remember a pavilion or something.
Yeah.
The trouble is that by the time they came to us looking for advice, it was a done deal.
Well, I had talked to him long ago and suggested that he had an ideal roof. And
Yeah, and I remember I was out there because he had sent us the thing and I said, gosh, that roof looks like it faces pretty south to me.
Yeah.
How old is that building?
And it probably still would have taken it. There are very few roofs that can't take it. Steep, it had a pretty steep pitch. Not an issue.
But in any case, he raised the bar, so why was it approved at all if there's a 14-foot?
Yeah, that's, I don't know.
Okay.
And we don't need to, I mean, it's there, obviously.
No, I just to understand it, I was like. what
I'm
happened?
more interested in what feedback have they gotten on this, because I wasn't aware of it.
Well, so it's quite possible that there's 5 people giving feedback that are mad and 100 people who aren't saying anything. So, I don't know.
I bear no surprise here.
Yeah.
There's enough people around who would just scream bloody murder about anything. Those things are prominent.
Yeah.
My comment to Connor was, if there is easy visibility of the back of tracking arrays, they are ugly from the back. And that's why I had proposed that they move it to the other side of the lot, closer to the building.
Yep.
But, yeah,
Yeah, that's what my suggestion was, around mount closer to the building.
Yeah.
Also, that would be low profile.
right.
Well, I mean, telephone poles aren't exactly beautiful, so I don't know.
Yeah, lots of ugly, right?
Yeah, I mean, not that you want more ugly things, but we do need electricity, so.
But if it's a park kind of city, you're talking the town center, you want, just on rooftops, more.
I
Yeah,
probably
also.
shouldn't have said town center. I'm not sure. It's probably the village district.
Oh.
It would
I
be
thought
part
you
of
were
the
talking
zoning.
common.
So you say it is a solar ordinance?
Yeah, it's been in effect for years. I found out about it.
It's in the zoning regulations.
Yeah, it's in there is the stuff about the 3-foot perimeter on the roof and the, right?
No,
Did
that's,
they-
that's.
It's kind of boilerplate stuff, I think.
Did they go to the zoning?
Well,
Variance? They didn't have to, huh?
Well,
We don't
sure it
know.
got approved at some point.
We
Yeah,
have no
predates.
visibility into the
Yeah.
process. that
Many
was
years
done.
Yeah.
So Connor told me they had put it in when the folks that own the gravel pits, the one on.
Oh,
Green's
so we're
over.
talking about the solar. No, Jim
Yeah,
is
the
talking
ordinance.
about, did they go to the zoning board to get a waiver on that?
Maybe.
Possible.
Sure.
I think we would have heard about it, though. I mean, they made a big fuss about what's his name? Chris, the engineer.
Barry?
Yeah,
Barry.
I mean, that came to the Conservation Commission, I'm saying. I'm saying we seem like we would have heard about it.
I'm not sure what we would have,
Yeah.
things fall through the cracks.
Yeah.
We probably should probably get in touch with Jim Sakosh and see what he's. I'm not, it is limited to tracking, so I'm not overly concerned with that.
Yeah.
Sense, but I'm afraid that it might get lined out into areas that I would be concerned about. That we want to be careful
Well,
How do you-
invite him to come present to us. I mean, it seems
about. Yeah,
like-
does anyone know how to spell it?
SACCOCIA, is that right? Sakocia?
Say it again.
Oh, lordy. SACCOCIA, I think.
Okay, another C. Down on C.
There's a lot of C's in there. Just keep putting in C's. He'll get there. Definitely not K though.
Okay.
Two double C's.
Okay, that's a good idea to ask him to present to the committee.
Yeah, once you get
What he's
it.
got in mind. I'll get into that.
Think you would try to put that up for the current warrant cycle?
I think he is, yeah, I think. Did you notice that in any of the zoning amendments that you went through?
No, it wasn't, I don't think it says. So it would be.
It would have to be.
Yeah, I'm surprised because they
I don't
have
think it-
4 other petition ones.
Yeah.
I mean, they have to get it in.
Yeah,
Maybe the next.
yeah, we'll find out what's going on. Maybe it won't be till next year. Who knows? Okay, that is pretty much everything I've got. So actually,
It's only 8:16.
That's good to me.
where's the coffee and cake? So Jim, we're getting together for breakfast tomorrow before we come over here.
8 o'clock. That's,
I haven't been there since it was coffee.
Wow. The new library, the envelope, final envelope was 0.82, I believe they came up with.
Wow.
Something like that. It was below 1.
This is great.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
That sounds
I was gonna say, somebody needs to give me a little clue on what 0.82 means.
Well, it started at 6, so just,
Okay.
And they were shooting for 1.
Yeah,
They
I
were
tried to-
1.6 and they were shooting for 1 and they came 0.82.
That's cool.
All the insulation is done, the whole building.
Did they do the spray thing that seals everything? Or
That's
they
what
must
the
have.
envelope was.
Yeah, okay.
Two
I hadn't heard of that
people
product.
buried in the walls.
I hadn't heard about that product before. I thought that was really interesting.
any mice that were in the building, you're there.
They ended up with extra insulation. So they went and there was a section or two where the ductwork was in the unconditioned space.
Oh, God.
So they filled that over with insulation.
Good.
So it's all I shouldn't say encapsulated, but it's all covered.
It's covered, yeah.
So at least it's.
And in some areas, there's 30 inches of insulation there. So it should be a well insulated building.
Cool.
That is a real success story, I think.
Yep.
What kind of insulation are they using?
It's done.
Blown in
It's blown.
Cellulose. I think.
cellulose. Yeah.
It's a forestry product, right?
That would be.
No, I think that's a very cellulose.
I thought he was all hopped up on it was, it was a wood product.
Yeah.
He was very excited about.
You can get cellulose from wood.
Yeah.
So maybe it is cellulose from a wood. It was, the idea was that it was,
Most of it
product was
comes-
being used from, a renewable resource.
Most of it comes from paper, but you can do it.
Yeah, yeah.
directly from them. Sorry, Jim, did you have anything else on the library?
There's 36 mini splits in that building, and they're controlled by a unit in the mezzanine that supposedly can take, if this room has got too much heat, can bring it to the other room, another room. So it's a pretty smart system, it sounds like. Yeah.
Let's hope
And
it
that's-
is. I know who will hear about it if it
Did you
isn't.
say 36 mini splits?
Well, they're
Yeah.
they're sealing,
units?
Ceiling
they're
units.
sealing unit.
Okay.
They're sealing.
Ceiling
Yeah.
units, drop ceiling. And they're
It's 36
almost done that.
units,
part of it.
Really?
Yeah.
Good.
Fun time.
Yeah.
Anyone else have anything? I was actually sick last week and I sort of lost the
Slow
whole
time.
week.
So I had offered to and will spend some time with the survey results and write up can't do much of a report, like any kind of data analysis really, but some trends to send to any town committees we think might want to take a look at it and to other town energy groups.
That's one of the things I was supposed to do, was get in touch with Kristen about how to get in touch with other town energy committees. Were you gonna do it through the New Hampshire network?
You mean Katrin? Is that what we're talking
Katrin,
about? Yeah, I'll reach out to her and I'll figure out how to get it
Yeah,
to people.
because I really did not like the New Hampshire. the group that was started in the New Hampshire Network, I really didn't like. Stopped.
Okay, I won't talk to them then.
Well, it may be the only one available because Katrine was going to start one herself through Clean Energy New Hampshire, but she said she'd get in touch with me and I never heard it.
Well, yeah, I will figure something out.
Okay, because I
That
called
sounds good.
her up after one of the New Hampshire Network meetings and I told her my feelings
Okay.
in no uncertain terms.
What is your major, just, they're sort of disorganized and loosey-goosey, which I agree with, but
Yeah, it's been a while. The whole thing, I was just on edge for it. Every time they would start, I didn't like the way the meetings were run. I didn't like the topics. I didn't like the participants. There was nothing I liked about those meetings. And you know, there's so much stuff that can eat your time in this area.
yes.
That to get something like that, just I find to be incredibly insulting.
We have one news item. I just remembered the NHPR ran an interview with, I mean, it was just a reporter, but they were talking about the new governor and her environment and energy policy. And basically just, you know, based on the fact that she was,
This was my
Yeah, Congress.
magazine speech.
yeah, did you
Yeah.
hear it?
I did hear it. It was good.
Yeah, and it's, might be available online.
Maybe.
But, you know, basically saying that Governor Ayotte, you know, has a track record in Congress, of course, and she was one of the few Republicans who actually was supporting some climate initiatives.
Oh.
So, you know, she might, you know, they're
There
all
was some
speculating,
hope
but
there.
yeah, I was just saying she might be a little better than Sununu.
Right.
Yeah.
So we'll see, but it was somewhat encouraging, I
Yeah.
guess.
It's probably going to be a little bit better than it's been. We'll see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So much.
She came out against a landfill up there in
Yeah.
Dalton
Yeah.
already, so.
That's some.
What did she say about the Dalton landfill?
There'll be no landfill. She's not gonna support that,
She's
so she wants their votes again.
They announced that the Department of Transportation got 15 million from the federal government to do electric vehicle.
Charging station.
charging
Oh,
stations,
yeah.
Oh, that's.
Which is in
another-
addition to the 12 million or so
Which
that,
was another area
Right.
of low interest.
yeah, it was low interest,
And
but.
they're actually
worth-
looking for
Yeah.
proposals on that from communities.
Yeah.
Well, let's propose that the library do too.
Is this
That's correct.
only for high power DC charging?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
No, I'm working with a restaurant sandwich that's put into two
Level
40
two.
levels. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, the library should.
It's the perfect place for it.
that.
or the park and ride next to Gales.
That's a possibility too.
I mean, that's state.
Town takes care of it. It's leased to the town, I believe.
Would the electric chargers go through the meter of the library?
Yeah, but you can get credit
Credit
card
card
charge.
swipers.
So
Um,
I mean, it was the one we're doing right now is two double
Is that
headed chargers.
Hampshire
It's like a
DOT?
$40,000 project.
the town that my parents live in, the kind of super left, liberal, whatever. And there's
You
two,
gonna let us in on what town this is?
Norwich, Vermont.
Oh, it's Vermont.
Well, yeah, so it's basically, it's a different country, but anyways, it's a different country. But in any case, so I drive up there to visit them and there are multiple level 2 chargers there that are just free. They have solar panel, like the town has just installed solar panels and a level 2 charger. You just go there and plug in. It's great. And I'm like, where's the credit card swiper? And there isn't one. It blew my mind. Anyway.
A lot of the workplace charging stations are like that. You know, these
Right.
Yeah, crazy.
But I mean, if we can get a grant to cover that and
Yeah.
and people have to buy their own electricity. Who can object to that?
Somebody, but anyway.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Don't have to use it. They can ignore it.
Yeah.
I'll try and find out some of the specifics on that. Has to be done. I think that's recent, so they're probably putting the program together now. Let's see.
Yeah, there was a program in existence and it did call for some cost sharing, whether it was private or public
Mhm.
entity involvement. But, you know,
I mean, level two, there's not a lot of cost for level two stuff. It's not that expensive.
If you want to, it's not cheap.
The credit card thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
They get real money for that.
Yeah, but
It's, but like I said,
without the credit card thing, I mean, I guess I have a level two charger at my house, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that was not that.
No, that's
It's
what
the
I
credit
was
card
actually
thing.
thinking of.
Yeah, no,
You're right.
but
point
the
of purchase.
four chargers with purchasing is about 40 grand installed.
It's not cheap.
Nope.
No,
Nope, but if,
But for grant, will
There's money
cover it
there.
or most.
yeah, if we can get a grant for it.
Yeah,
Is it, can it turn a profit? Like, can the library make money on it?
Yeah.
yes.
That's well, the volume side.
Oh,
Now,
no,
wait,
wait,
wait, I got a little bored. The provision gave me the number the other night. And what was it? It was like 25% implementation is break even. I think that's what it was, based on their numbers.
say that again?
24% utilization is a break even on the credit card base.
I see.
You know, the library can't charge for like
That's-
library cards, things like that. I didn't know if there was any stipulation that they wouldn't be able to sell electricity.
Yeah, I'm not gonna claim to have a well-researched opinion on that or any research on that, but I think the statute specifically applies to typical library activities and would include that.
It wouldn't be the library selling electricity, it'd be the town,
Yeah, I guess it would be the town anyway, yeah,
the town's meter.
through the generous donation of the Barrington Library Foundation, so to the town.
Let's get out of here before this breaks any further.
Can we adjourn, please? Thank you, everyone.
You're welcome.